welcome to year 2 of the Funding Love podcast. I'm Mallory Elrod.
And I'm Caitlin Duckworth. We are two adoptive moms that seek to love, support, and elevate all corners of the adoption triad, including adoptive families, adoptees, and birth parents.
We do that through honest conversation with both expert and everyday voices about all things adoption and more, all while running our nonprofit, Funding Love.
We create post-adoption experiences that strengthen bonds, build community, and restore people.
We are Funding Love,
the podcast. Welcome back to the Funding Love podcast. This is your co-host, Kate, and this is episode 103. Today, we have Victoria and Eileen on as our guests, and this episode is so interesting. They are twin adoptees, and they tell us all about their story from birth to where they are now as adult adoptees, and I'm telling you, it is one that you do not want to miss. They are a wealth of wisdom. They are fun. They are cute. They are adorable, and I am so glad that we have met them and that they have joined us on this episode, because it is one you do not want to miss. So thank you all for tuning in. Let's take a listen. All right. Welcome back to the Funding Love podcast. This is episode 103. Victoria and Eileen, welcome. We're so glad to have you guys today.
Thanks for having us. It's exciting.
We are so excited to have you on. I have wanted to have you guys on for quite a while now. I met you guys through my husband, and y'all have been huge supporters of Funding Love throughout the last few years. And so I'm just so excited to have you on here to share your story. So why don't we just start out with that? If you want to introduce yourselves a little bit more and tell us how you're connected to the adoption community.
So we're going to talk over each other a lot, probably.
No worries.
Other sentences. That's a twin thing. So I'm Victoria. Our story. Oh my gosh. So let me introduce you.
I'm Eileen.
Victoria and Eileen were identical twins. We were adopted at birth from our amazing adoptive parents. We grew up in Glendale, California. We say Burbank, California, because we were literally on the border. Like we could put our foot in Burbank. And we didn't like Glendale, so we said Burbank. So, and all of our friends were in Burbank, so we kind of just gravitated towards the Burbank side. But we grew up in the Riverside Rancho. If people are from that area, they know exactly where that is. And we grew up with our parents. Our father was an Iranian from Iran who came to the country and lived in New York at 18. As soon as he turned 18, he pieced out and came straight to New York.
Didn't know like English.
Nothing.
Wow.
He's a bartender, bar back in Queens, New York.
Mm-hmm. And actually, it's a funny story. The reason why he wanted to come to the U.S. was so he can be an American cowboy.
Oh, so that's so cute.
His goal in life was to be an American cowboy. So he's like, well, I have a friend going to New York. I'll stay with him in a tiny little loft apartment, and we'll see how this goes.
You know, that's what one does when they want to be a cowboy. They go to Queens.
They go to all places.
I know. It's reminding me of Newsies, you know, when he's in New York, but he wants to get out to Santa Fe.
Yeah, exactly. And actually how he learned English was watching Westerns, old Western movies.
Wow. Oh, gosh. I love that.
Yeah. So he, he lived there. I don't even know how long. How long would you say?
Until the early 80s, or late 70s.
Late 70s. And then he came to Glendale, and he lived in an apartment over by Universal Studios.
Mm-hmm.
And then the apartment was kind of near, if people are from the Riverside Rancho, they know that Universal, Burbank, it's all near where there's also an equestrian center, trails, and horse property and stuff like that. So he decided he was going to start to learn how to ride horses as well as, or when he moved to Southern California. And the apartment he lived in, that's where he met our mom, our adopted mom. So when we say mom or dad, that's our parents.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing else.
We know nothing else. We grew up that way, and bio mom, bio dad, that's bio. And
right.
They have no ties to us.
They're just egg and, donors. Yeah.
So
we'll get into that later.
We'll get into that later.
Yes.
Can't wait.
Yeah, and they actually met through mutual friends down at the pool at a barbecue. And at that time, my dad had learned his English, and he came to work in Southern California. He got a job offer at the L'Hermitage Hotel in Beverly Hills. So he became a bartender and waiter there. And then you want to take it? I'm talking a lot.
It's okay.
I'm the talker
You're
of the two.
I'm the finisher. My parents started talking, and they would hang out with mutual friends, and then kind of they were both in separate relationships. Not at the time, but my dad had been
Married in New York.
He divorced, but my mom was in a relationship out here in California. So when they met, freshly divorced, they didn't like just friends. So then they just started talking, hung out with mutual friends, and butted a relationship. And then my mom, when she was a teenager, she ended up getting the tampon disease.
Toxic shock.
Oh, wow.
So she went into menopause at the age, I think she said 19
or something.
No way.
Yeah. So she couldn't have children. So when she met my dad, she's like, first off the bat, I can't have children. He's like, that's okay.
Mm.
You know, we'll live our life. They never really planning on having kids. So then fast forward, they're married together, and then
They got married in 82, I believe.
Yeah.
It was.
2 or 83.
Something like that.
I don't remember.
Yeah. And then,
Go ahead.
their relationship, obviously, they got married, and then they started wanting to talk about adoption or fostering or what have you. And
Then it was super expensive. It wasn't like it is today, where it's mostly foster to adopt or anything like that. So it was a private adoption. My mom worked at Apple One Employment, which is an employment agency out here that's like really big. They have different offices and stuff. And
well, you forgot the most important part. When they started the adoption process, they would actually go to this place in Studio City called the Little Brown Church.
Oh, yes.
And they, every night after work, they would meet there and they would pray for an adoption.
Oh, I love it.
Every single night they would go to that little church and pray.
It's still there.
And it's still there.
I bet, yeah, Studio City, that's a cute little town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then they were just praying about it and like going through the motions of finding
So they were praying, but my dad was a Muslim. My mom was a Catholic. They never taught an eye in religion. We'll get more into that later. But but they would go to this church because it was a common ground. They prayed their own ways and talked to God in their own ways. Okay, go.
So and when my mom was at work one day, a 19-year-old walked in, pregnant as could be, and wanted a part-time job. So she was the headhunter at the company, wanted a part-time job. And she was like, yeah, I'm pregnant with twins. I just need something until I have these babies. I'm giving them up for adoption. And then my mom was like, we'll take them. Like, back then,
we've been praying for it. Yeah.
Back then it was so easy. And she's like, well, I don't know. We have to like go through the motions. And then, so longer story shorter, my godmother was my mom's best friend, also worked at Apple One. And when they went through the motions of the adoption process, they found out it was going to be like god awful amount, like 50 grand to do this. And my parents were like, well, we're newly married. They obviously didn't have 50 grand laying around back then. And so my godmother and my godfather, they actually were very wealthy. And they said, we'll front the money. We'll pay for the adoption. So that's how they became our godparents.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, that's amazing.
So, my mom ended up finding our bio mom a job and went through the motions. She ended up having us.
Well, bio mom at the time was hopped up on drugs, alcohol.
Yeah.
She never told our mom that was her lifestyle.
That was her life. I mean, she could kind of tell that something was going on, but the entire pregnancy, while we were in her belly, she was doing drugs and drinking.
Wow.
So we were actually born drug babies. And
baby vegetables.
Baby
the doctor
vegetables.
said that we would never walk, talk. We'd be mentally retarded. Yeah.
What?
No way.
So our
What a
skin
story.
was really green. We were in incubators for 3 months in the NICU.
We were born 2 pounds each.
Yeah. Like literally
baby vegetables. So it's crazy. Yeah. But they're like, these babies are meant to be ours. How can we send them back to this person, bio mom, that didn't even care to care for these babies while she was pregnant. So at birth, we were
So
given
how early were you guys born? Like at how many weeks? Do you remember that? Just
that.
curious.
No, we were never
No.
told that.
We just know we
Okay.
were for 3 weeks or
Or
3 months, I mean.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we don't know if we were 3 months premature or what, but
Okay.
never told.
And that kind of goes back to our growing up. We weren't really told, or we didn't really talk about adoption.
It wasn't.
It wasn't a thing. These were our parents. We actually probably didn't find out we were adopted until maybe like 5 or 6,
Maybe
Okay.
even older than that.
we don't
Wow.
remember the set date where they sat us down.
No.
Our parents
Okay.
would say, give us this nighttime story, like once upon a time there were these babies that, and then they would go into the whole story, but we
Mhm.
never put 2 and 2 together. Like
We're adopted.
we're adopted. So, and
Yeah.
then, it was never talked about. Our parents were very self-conscious about it.
Mhm.
Mm.
And that goes back to bio mom when we were about 6 months old, kidnapped us at a meeting
McDonald's.
at a McDonald's when they were doing a meeting with our adopted parents.
Oh wow.
She wanted visitation, so they brought us to McDonald's, and they were meeting somehow, some way. I don't know logistics, but they went to go get our food or something, or their food or something like that, and bio mom just jetted.
Wow.
Took us. So we were actually gone for about 10 months.
Story gets better.
The story gets better. I know.
That's why we can say we could write a darn book.
You're good.
Edit.
Edit, please. Sorry.
Edit. Yeah, no, it's okay. No, but yeah, I mean, that would say that deserves that word. That is really like my jaw is like on the floor, like
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
because those are, I mean, to be honest, those are things that people like hear about and are frightened
Yeah.
about. Talk about, you know,
Right.
as adoptive parents, being an adoptive parent that you do worry about because open adoption is such a common thing. And for the most part, the general rule is you don't need to have fear about that, but there because of the way things are, but that is like an underlying concern. Wow. That's
why visitation has gotten so structured and strict.
yes.
Because back in the 80s, we were born in 85. Back in the 80s, you could just meet up and there wasn't somebody watching over the two parties. There was
Right.
Just a communal meetup and
yeah.
hey kids,
Right.
like how you doing type thing. And
Yeah.
that was it. So at that point, she's like, peace, took us.
Mhm.
We were gone for quite some time. She lived in an apartment. So now this is where the story gets crazy because we never knew
Now
this.
it does.
Now it does. It gets crazy. We never knew this back end story till about 3 years ago.
Yeah. When we met half sister.
Half sister.
Okay. So how old were you when this kidnapping happened?
They were 6
Months old.
About 6 months.
Oh,
old.
6 months old. You said that.
But
Okay.
you have no
Wow.
memory of your time with her when she had
Not at
you.
all.
Okay.
Not a lick. Yeah.
We know that there was abuse, that we were told that there was some kind of physical abuse going on and stairs were involved and stuff like that, but we were never told
Wow.
exact stories.
Yeah. And so we were kidnapped at the time. My parents obviously went through every single emotion and through the police and everyone got involved. So we weren't found until, and we actually just got this piece of the story when we found our half sister on ancestry.com. And up until 3 years ago, our story ended there. We were kidnapped. We got back with our parents, and that was it. And we never talked about bio mom ever again. And that was it. We didn't want to meet her. We heard that we were drug babies.
We didn't know we had siblings,
Yeah.
half siblings. We didn't know any side of that story.
And on the other hand, we never asked.
We never asked.
It wasn't like our parents are our parents, and that was it. We lived a beautiful life, and yeah, we had our struggles, but we never had a reason to be like, I want to find bio mom. Like it wasn't
Right. Especially knowing the little bit of the story that you did know.
exactly.
Right.
And like we said before, our parents were very self-conscious about the story.
They had PTSD, so they would get very defensive.
Yeah,
For
So
sure.
anytime we would even hint at asking about bio mom, bio dad, any of the story, they would get very angry about it. Like very, we don't talk about that. How dare you ask? Like made us
You're
feel
ours. Like
A bit triggered. It kind of like triggered them a way of like,
For sure.
yeah, possessive way because
like,
yeah.
never bring it up again. And we never talk about it. So fast forward to
2014, our father passed away of bone marrow cancer.
Mm.
And in 2019, our mother passed away.
Oh my.
So we don't have anybody left.
Except for us.
And then our
Each other.
godparents passed away in 2013 and 2021.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
We literally
It's like so much loss.
That's a lot of
in a
loss.
short time.
Yeah.
That
Wow.
was a lot. And then, I mean, that would be another podcast to talk about
For sure.
that
All the
period of time
layers.
they lost all 4 of them.
our 4 pillars in 5 years.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, it's insane.
And so did you search or do the ancestry stuff after the passing of your parents?
No, actually.
My mom was still alive at that
Yeah, our
time.
mom was still,
Okay.
and our godmom. And it wasn't, we didn't do the ancestry to find, we just wanted to know, because actually we found out through our adopted mom that someone on the mother's side had breast cancer. So we're like,
Okay. Yes.
have to test for BRCA gene. We have to get, like, we wanted to do ancestry just to see what we have looking forward.
And what our background was. We were always told we were half Irish, half English. And that was it.
Okay.
And our father was Irish, and then our bio mom was English. That's all we were told.
That's all we were told.
So
Okay.
Christmas of 2015, 16?
Something like that.
I guess it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
But I was gifted from my husband's side of the family ancestry. So I took it, didn't think anything of it, got the results about 3 months later, and she was on a work trip. See, I remember it, like how this went down. She was on a work trip, and I get a call or a text message on the Ancestry app saying, "I think I'm your half sister." And I was like, "What?"
She calls me. I was in Nashville and we were about to go into the Country Music Hall of Fame. And she's like, "You gotta step aside. You gotta step aside." And I answered, and
I'm like, "We have a half sister. It says on Ancestry, this is our half sister." She's like, related to us on our maternal side and all this stuff. And she's like, "What are you talking about?"
I'm like,
She messaged me on Ancestry. What do I say?
nothing.
I'm at work with my coworkers right now. We are going and I can't talk about this. I was like,
"Can we just
she wants to
table
talk on the
it?"
phone. She wants to talk on the phone. And then
So Eileen is very like impulsive, and I'm like calm, cool, collected. I'm analytical. I need facts.
I'm like,
I need
let's go.
pro con.
Mhm.
I need to figure it out, and I need to digest it. And she's like, and I'm like, "Dude, can we just table it until I get back? I'm coming back in a week."
I'm like, what if I don't respond? Then she'll think I'm being rude. And then so I responded.
Yeah.
And I get back to the hotel room, and it was like 11 o'clock at night. She's like, "She wants to call." I'm like, "I need to go to bed. Like, can we not?" And she's like, "No, we're going to do it." I'm like, "I hate you."
Oh gosh.
And also, I have horrible social anxiety. We both do. And it's bad. It's debilitating. And so when she was like, "We're going to talk to somebody brand new that's possibly related to us."
Oh my gosh, it's overwhelming.
The thought nowadays makes me want to vomit. Like,
Yeah.
And I feel bad thinking back. I'm like, she was on a work trip. How stressful. It was so selfish of me.
yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, it's exciting in the moment. And we talked for about 20 minutes or so.
That initial talk, we talked for about 20 minutes.
It wasn't like rainbows and butterflies. It was like we learned a lot about her and her past. So that kind of back to how we found out about getting taken and being gone for the 10 months. So we kind of filled in those gaps in that 20 minutes. And so half sister was actually still in care of bio. So she was in foster.
Older than you?
Older, 3 years.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
3 years older. So she knew of us. She knew about us.
Our whole lives.
Our whole lives.
Wow.
And it even gets better. We grew up in Glendale. She grew up in Glendale.
Wow.
So for 20 something years at the time, we cross paths. Like
what if we were at the mall at the same time or at a restaurant at the same time and we never knew?
Right.
And the odds of us going to the same school, I mean, there's only a few schools in that area, but we didn't end up going to the same school. So it was just crazy.
Was she raised by your bio mom?
Partly. And then she was in the foster system until she was adulted out.
Wow.
So
okay. Oh, wow.
Back and forth. She got the hard
end of the stick.
She did. And she's in group homes and then taken back by bio mom
a few times, I think.
Yeah.
The time when we were kidnapped, our half sister, she was in the care of Biomom. Biomom went on a bender, left half sister with 6-month-old babies for,
God
they
knows how
said
long.
it was
Days.
at least 24 hours to 48 hours. And they lived in an upstairs apartment, and our half sister told us that she was keeping us alive with peanut butter.
Oh,
Yeah,
my
because I
word.
mean, she was 4.
She was 4, yeah.
Yeah.
So imagine
She's like, these babies don't stop crying. There was no diapers. There was nothing. Like, she just kept feeding us peanut butter.
yeah.
And then it got to the point where, like, we were
Just
inconsolable.
yeah.
So she carried both of us downstairs to the pool area and told a lady or a gentleman that I don't know where my mommy is. My sisters won't stop crying. So then
Oh my gosh.
So we all actually got all split up. Eileen and I stayed together, obviously, because we had adoptive parents. And then she was at that point put into a group home. She was in the group home for however many years, and then got back with Biomom.
Biomom would clean herself up and then go back on her. So it was back and forth.
Sure.
And she lived in trailer parks and in different bad environments, and was always surrounded by drugs and horrible people.
Yeah.
And she really.
So the way that your family found you again was because your older sister basically revealed you guys to an adult. Okay. Wow.
So they grabbed us. We went into a brief foster home until our parents could pick us up. And we were
don't know at the
theirs
time.
forever. Yeah, we don't know the timeline.
Right.
And what's crazy is that our parents never told us any of this. Like,
We found out this side of the story after everyone passed away. So we have no one to ask questions to.
all we have is half sister, and she remembers it vividly.
Oh, I'm sure.
And we don't talk to her about it in detail because it's very triggering for her. She was raised in that environment, and she had kids at a very young age herself. Like, she was just a recipe of my Biomom and a system. And she was, I mean, the worst possible things that could happen in the foster system happened to her. And you could feel those thoughts.
Yeah.
Won't say her name because I don't know if she even wants to be part of this.
Sure.
But yeah.
My goodness. Wow. I mean, there's so many gaps. I'm sure that you guys still just are just still questioning. And it's amazing that when you go, like, for your half sister, for her to be so at the age of 4, have such a vivid memory. That I mean, because 4-year-olds do have memory, of course, but so vivid to the detail is like just tells you the experience, how heavy it was for her, and how
memory for her.
Yeah. What I mean, my heart breaks for 4-year-old her. Like, what do? I can just picture her. I mean, I have a 4-year-old carrying these babies downstairs, and oh my gosh, being a little mommy. Like,
but also the gravity of that moment, of it being a moment of her decision. It kind of like saved you guys, saved your lives, and got you back reunited with your family.
So we'd assume she's resentful. She never talks about. She mentioned it once.
But what is a constant conversation is you guys had such a better life than me, and it sucks because, like, I could cry, and obviously we don't want to rub that in her face, and we want to have a relationship with her. She's a different person than we are, like, in terms of just personality, and but what's really cool is that because of her story, she is now completing school to be a what is it called?
She helps kids in the system. So basically
be better. Like, so she works at a they call it a camp, and it's like a group home type thing. And she helps these children of all ages, mostly males, and how to just be good citizens and kind of overcome
life skills and character skills, and
so she learned. I mean, it took her some time to get to that point, obviously, because she's 3 years older than us. We're 38, so she's in her 40s. But now she's almost completing school with her bachelor's, and she's going to be doing good things in the community, which is awesome.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you guys for sharing that. Honestly, that's a heavy story, and but so interesting, and I think just eye-opening. It really is. It's another perspective for us as adoptive parents to even view, and our listeners as well. So that's
Yeah. And we just got done with a series
mm-hmm.
that is called Adoption is ... And we had Adoption is Messy, Adoption is Scary, Adoption is Love. And it just goes to show to that angle of there's, a big voice out there that's saying like adoption shouldn't even be, like we should just help the bio family and so that they don't ever have to be in that situation. But it also goes to show that like there are situations when it is the best possible scenario for that child. And for us in At Funding Love, we always view like the adoptee should be the main focal point. Like we're doing this for them, you know what I mean? And that's how it was always presented to us in our adoption process too. Like if it's best for the adoptee to stay with birth mom, then that needs to happen. But if it's best for the adoptee to be with an adoptive family, then that's what should happen. We should have the child's best interest at mind. And your story just like glares in the face of like adoption should exist because of scenarios like this. Where you were able to grow up in a loving home with amazing parents that cared for you and kept you safe, you know?
For sure.
So, yeah.
So my question is, and I don't know if you guys, this is just going back a little bit because you said it really wasn't talked about in your family and you guys didn't even really know until you were 5, 6, 7. How did that conversation come about and how did you feel? If you can remember, like, was it like an upsetting feeling for you to finally find out, or were you like, oh, I kind of knew? Because if your dad's Iranian, did he have a different skin tone? Did you feel like you didn't? Yeah. So I'm curious.
As Iranian children, like we couldn't wear makeup, we couldn't wear revealing clothing. We had
rules,
but like he was an Iranian hothead, and the rules came out yelling, and
everything was yelling.
Everything was yelling, but it wasn't. I can't remember or pinpoint that moment of when we realized or when we discussed. I don't think it was a sit down moment. I think it was hearing that bedtime story over and over. Like, oh, what does that mean? Like, that's and I think it was more like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like you're our parents. That's it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And then from there on, it was just a casual conversation every now and again, kind of a thing.
Never with them.
We couldn't talk about it. It was too tricky.
There wasn't anger behind it because they'll be like, well, why are you asking?
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, abort mission.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So growing up then a twin, and I know I said I kind of put this in the outline that I had, but I grew up in the 90s right along with you guys. I was born in 86, so I'm right there. I'm the same age as you. And like the Olsen twins, I remember I was an only child until I was 13. So I grew up with no siblings in my household. So I just remember dreaming like, oh, I wish I had a twin and we would share clothes and we would switch places and our parents wouldn't know it. And she'd be my best friend and I could talk to her about anything. So I think that from the outside looking in, it seems like that is really what you find in having a twin. But you can attest to that one way or the other, but also like, did having the adoption add a layer to that? Was there ever like a comfort in knowing, like, even if we're questioning adoption or we want to know things, was it comforting having that other person, your kind of built-in best friend right there to process that with? Tell us a little bit about that.
So built-in best friend, we're blood. Like, yeah, we don't look like our parents. Like maybe our mom.
There was sometimes
she was a white girl from Chicago. So, I mean, there was the whiteness, but but my dad, dark skin, Iranian, olive, dark hair.
Only had an accent when he cussed.
Yeah.
The funniest thing.
Yeah.
The only time his accent came out was when he would cuss. It's hilarious.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
But my mom would actually kind of resent us for being twins in a way because she'd be like, you always gang up on me. Like,
hanging up on her. It's
like you guys have your own little relationship and I'm just here. Like, okay, I'll be your mother, but you guys go and do your own. So I think that was the insecurity that she had just from the adoptive process. But built-in best friends. We literally talk 10 times a day. We see each other every day. That kind of goes hand in hand with the latter part of our story on our godmom's side. We used to live about maybe 30 minutes from each other. So we wouldn't see each other every day. We would talk 10 times a day. But when my godmom passed away, we didn't know. Well, we kind of had an idea, but we didn't know this in its entirety. But she left us homes. She left us each a home and we're 5 minutes from each other.
Wow.
Yeah. So she wanted to make sure that we stay together and that we're close by each other. So we uprooted, moved about 2.5 hours away. And now
in
And
Orange County.
we're in Orange County, California, and yeah, about 5 minutes from each other.
That's
Oh,
cool. That's
what
a
a
really cool
gift.
story. What a gift. Yeah.
Such a
Yeah,
big-
just to make sure you guys need each other. I want you to be by each other. Don't ever forget that. That's kind of a bold statement, for her to say to you guys, because you're like, wow. And that your families were on board too, that your surrounding groups and friends groups and families. That's cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, and what a comfort for you guys to have each other, even to process the adoption, because knowing, your story now, saying that your parents didn't feel comfortable talking about it, being able to talk about it with each other. I mean, I felt like what a gift, because what else would you have done?
Yeah. And especially with like the ancestry and stuff like that. Of course, she was like balls to the wall. And I'm like, whoa, like
We found an aunt.
yeah.
So our birth mom's
Sister.
direct sister.
So we got a lot of the story from her
We talk
Oh,
to
wow.
her all the
often,
time.
very
often.
often.
She lives near half sister.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she's in bad health. So we've visited her and sent her care packages and things like that. But
She'll tell us stories just about our birth father. We found out that he was an Irish man that was like 6'4" with bright red
blue
hair,
and
blue
bright
eyes.
blue eyes. Actually, my daughter has blue eyes.
And
And
we didn't know how she got those eyes.
And then we found out when we met half sister that that's where she got the blue eyes, was from our biodad.
Because her side, her husband's side of the family, no one has blue eyes.
Yeah. All green or hazel or brown.
Or brown. Yeah. So we're like, where did she get these blue eyes from?
Yeah.
That is so cool. That's the fun part about, learning about your bio family. I mean, sure, as an adoptee too, it's like, where do I get this from? Where do I get this from? And then to have that's so cool.
Yes. Yes.
Supposedly our bio mom has cleaned up yet again. And she was living near San Francisco, I guess, for years. And she moved. Now she lives near half sister.
And we told half sister that in order to have a relationship with you, bio mom cannot be in the picture. We will never talk to her. We will not. I don't want her to know my name, where I live, where any of my information. And so that was our agreement first off the bat, and that's the end, or the rule setting side of me when that first conversation happened. She's like, half sister, and I'm like, okay, listen, cannot be in the picture.
So we know that bio mom knows we exist and that we talk with them and her our aunt.
Bio mom's middle name is Eileen's first name, which is crazy. So Eileen got the Irish side. The English side. No, Irish side
name,
Eileen Marie, and I got the English side, Victoria Ann.
Oh, that's so cool. That's awesome.
Picked our names.
Yeah, just
adopted parents kept them.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
Oh, wow. You don't really see that much. I mean, Mal, you guys, the same thing with Mason. Yeah.
Yes. His birth mom chose his name and we kept the name. But it's kind of neat to have that tie to your birth dad, knowing he was Irish with bright red hair and you're Eileen. Like it's, even if you don't have relationships, to kind of still know that, isn't it? Does that feel helpful to just know a little bit more about your past now?
Especially those little puzzle pieces. Like it comes together in conversations, and we're not we don't want to sit her down and trigger her in any way and just bombard her with all these questions. So over the last few years, stuff has come up and we're kind of putting those puzzle pieces together. Our aunt, our bio mom's sister, tells us more on that side of things, and how I guess she was like the coach and counsel to bio mom, and during this whole process, you got to get your act together for these girls. You have to, and
obviously it fell on deaf ears.
But she said that she tried as hard as she could as her sister to try to get her to clean up for her daughters.
Yeah.
But she does not speak to bio mom at all. So that is no one does. We also have another half sister who is 2 years younger than us, who is BFFs with bio mom and is on that same trajectory of messing up her life, and which is tough to hear.
Yeah. Now your older half sister, does she have a relationship with bio mom a little bit still?
Kind of like a talk here and there.
Yeah, got it. Okay.
They live in the same city.
Sure.
They would run into each other periodically, but it's
a small town.
Yeah. Very
Got
small.
it. So I'm curious now, as adult adoptees. So we at Funding Love, like, community is a big thing that we believe in, and what we do for adoptive families and for birth moms. And so my as adoptee, I'm curious, is that something that you guys feel like you've needed as an adoptee to find community? I know you have it in each other, a built-in community, which is such a blessing for you two. But have you felt the need to want to connect with other adoptees, or do you find comfort in connecting with other adoptees?
I think growing up it would have helped. Nowadays, as an adult, I think hearing this side of the story and looking into the sad part of the story could really help others as just a lending ear or voice of reason on this side of things. But I think it's always important to have that community.
Yeah, and I'm now. I mean, this question I might know the answer to just because part of your story. But growing up, did you have any adoptee friends, or was there a community around you of that?
Not at all. In school, we were, I think we had 2 other sets of identical twins. So it's always a cool thing, but we never said, "Oh, these are our adopted parents."
Right.
Our parents.
Yeah.
And to this day, I say I'm Iranian. I grew up in an Iranian household, with Iranian ways of life and rules and
Food.
food. So it was never even discussed. It wasn't like, "Hey, are you adopted? Oh, we should get together." Let's
No,
talk."
right.
Sure.
And then people out and about, or even people we were big in our church community and stuff. People would be like, "Oh, you really got your mom's skin color."
Yeah, we did.
So no, we don't.
Yeah.
It was never but wait, we're adopted. We're happy this happened.
Yeah, it wasn't. We didn't go down the line of all these facts to people because it would
Still to this day we never do.
Not really.
Well, it's one of those things that, unless you are sitting down talking about it, it's unnecessary. Being out and about at the store, people will say, "Oh my gosh, your daughter looks just like you." "Oh, thank you so much." I'm not going to say, "Well, she doesn't," but thank you. And she's, you know what I mean? So you just,
no, she's mine.
Right. You just go, "Oh, thanks so much. Yeah, she's beautiful," whatever. And you keep going. So I agree. There is no need, especially in the community, small talk, whatever, in that. But, and to be honest, I feel like in the last couple decades, adoption has come in a totally different circle. So from when your adoption happened and when you were growing up to where it is now, it's more of a conversation and an open conversation, and adoptees usually know their stories most of the way through. So it's different now, so that I could see how it really wasn't a part of your world then, because it just wasn't talked about. So you may have been around other adoptees, just not really knowing.
And they didn't talk about it either. And I think, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because Caitlin and I have said over and over that our children, we want their adoption to be a part of their story, but we don't want it to be their identity. Hi, I'm Mason and I'm adopted. I don't want that to be something that he feels like, his character is what makes him who he is, not something that happened to him when he was 2 months old. Yeah. So, I think that that's okay, for you to share it when you feel comfortable, and for you to not when you don't, or when you don't want to. And so I think that also is a testament to it's a part of your story, not a part of your identity that you're wrapped up in,
Exactly. Yeah. And it's definitely not a conversation. We're like, "Oh yeah, remember bio mom?" We don't talk about it at all.
Now she does pop up on my friends you may know on Facebook. It's
oh wow,
she's looked us up.
Yeah.
But
weird. So
weird. We definitely appreciate you telling your story here on the podcast, because it's such a unique one for sure, and a perspective that I don't feel like has been voiced on this podcast very much at all. So I appreciate you coming on and being vulnerable with us and sharing pieces of your story, and
also being honest of how you really feel, because I feel like there's so much of you guys are really honest about what this has done to you and how you feel about your biological family, and you're not, with protection of who they are and where they live and all of that, but it's still one of those things that you're like, "No, I feel this way, and this is why."
Honest.
And I honestly, I really appreciate that, because I think there is so much of tiptoeing, in order to not say the wrong thing. But this is how you feel, because this is your story and this is what you've been through. So that is really cool that you guys are really honest. So I'm grateful. But I am one more question is, if we have an adoptee listening, I want to know, what advice would you give them if they're struggling with their story, or they're in the middle of a hard journey of trying to find their biological family or connect with their biological family? What advice would you offer them?
Oh, we're probably on a different platform than, well, she's probably like balls to the wall. And then I'm like,
well, you can each share your own
Yeah,
individual
yeah.
advice.
I would just say, like, you can look at the big picture, but on the other hand, it's not always rainbows and butterflies. So what you find out may not,
It may put you in a different spot worse
Yeah.
than not knowing.
it may be not food for your soul, and it could bring back, or bring resentment to that person. Like if I were to put the shoes on my feet as if it was half sister, like she doesn't have the same story. So she's resentful of us. So if we were to be like, yeah, we grew up here and we did this and our parents gave us that, like she'd be like, I hate you. Like, so you have to, if you do find your biological family, make sure you're not sugarcoating your story, but make sure you're open to both sides, and you're how am I trying to say
Just like
this?
tread lightly.
Lightly, yeah. Don't try to rub it in their face, because you don't know how that's going to affect them on their daily moving forward.
Yeah.
Like hear each other out, but kind of just be able to listen and tread lightly.
Yeah.
Yeah, just be respectful, because everyone's got their. I mean, she has a totally different perspective than you. Yeah,
Sure.
and honestly, what she heard about you guys, like who knows what words were said about you to her? You know what I mean? As she grew up, so.
And for me, honestly, I'm grateful that we found out the way we did when we did. I wish I could ask my parents questions as to like what
if it
happened.
was like 10 years ago or 20 years ago, I wish we had their side of the story.
Yeah. But I'm also grateful because when we found out, we had established families, we were married, we were in a happy place. Like our lives were in a comfort zone to where this information didn't mess with our brains.
Didn't spiral. Didn't take us down.
Because I feel like if high school me or younger me, even young adult, college me found that out, it would probably have sent me into a spiral, to be honest, because my anxiety and depression and stuff like that. I don't think it would have been healthy for my brain. And God works in mysterious ways. You guys know that. And if he knew when we were supposed to know, and I think he knew that if we knew then,
what we know now,
it wouldn't have been good.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Sure. Wow. Whew. Well, that was a story that I'm going to digest for a while. You guys are brave for sharing that.
Any more questions, feel free to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think our listeners may, honestly.
I'm just going to say it, that you need to write the book, girls. You need to get down and write the book. Yes.
What, the last 5 years of our lives, that we could write a book too.
Oh my God.
Like, it's insane just what life has thrown at us recently.
Yeah.
And it's tough. But on a fun fact note, my identical twin Eileen had identical twins, which is
that's
really
what I was going to mention that earlier. I was like, I know one of you has a set of identical twins.
Amelia and Rebecca, they are 9 years old and they are identical as identical can be. When I found out I was pregnant with them, I was actually going, and this takes us back to when I want to do the ancestry, because I went in for a normal woman checkup. They found bad cells in me. They sent me to do an ultrasound. They're like, well, we can't do anything about your bad cells because you're pregnant and you're pregnant with twins.
Wow.
And I was like, wait, what?
like,
okay.
What? Yeah.
So, I mean, that adds to another chapter to the book.
There's another chapter.
There's another
For
chapter.
sure.
Husband.
For sure.
So we found out we were having twins. My OB said there's no way identicals can have identicals. It's really rare.
A fluke of nature.
1 in 8,000 twin pregnancies for identical to have identicals. It's like just heard of. So she's like, they're fraternal. Hands down, they're fraternal. And they kept sending me into the ultrasounds, and they're like, we only see one placenta. They're identical.
Yeah.
And wow. Well,
so when we're out together, the four of us, we are freaks of nature.
I was going to say, because they got to look like you. So then they look like you. Yeah. That's insane.
Her daughter looks like my daughter. So they think they're triplets and they're 2 years apart.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
oh my gosh. Yeah. That is like
so cute though. Oh my goodness.
And if y'all like wear matching shirts, like go to Disneyland wearing matching shirts, I'm sure it's just like,
we shop at the same place, Les Boutiques du Target
and Walmart.
And so we always walk out of the house and we're like, go change, because we're wearing literally the exact same thing.
That's like a twin brain. That's got to be a twin brain.
Leggings. We both have the same leggings on. You have our hair the same way. I'm like, you wore your hair in a bun today?
I love it. I love it.
You
It's so
girls,
cute.
you girls are adorable. That's awesome. So before we wrap up, one question that we like to ask at the Funding Love podcast, because it is called Funding Love. We want to ask you guys, what are you loving right now in life? Could be something fun, simple, a food, a book, a beverage, whatever it is. What are you guys loving right now?
I just picked up crocheting and I'm obsessed.
Oh,
It is such a fun hobby.
Yes.
So yeah, that's been consuming me. Like I'm always watching videos on crocheting, and for Valentine's Day, my husband bought me a bunch of crochet kits. And
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
So this Christmas, everybody's getting something crocheted.
yes,
sure.
they totally
Yes.
are.
For sure.
With our 3D printers and
Yeah, you're gonna have to put like a crocheted bow on top of your 3D ears.
She actually sent me one the other day. She's like, "Can we put this on ears?"
He's so cute, especially a winter pair.
Yeah, right. So I just another chapter of my life is my house is actually in escrow right now. We're selling it because the house that we inherited is a 2-bedroom townhouse type house, and we have
Okay.
2 kids, 2 dogs, 3 cats. Like we're just outgrowing it. So it's in escrow right now, and we actually should be finding out in the next hour or so. And I keep looking down on my phone from my realtor to see if we're in escrow on our new property.
Oh wow! Well, congratulations.
That's big news. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is something to be loving right now for sure.
possibly get this new house.
Yeah.
So
So we'll
You'll
find
still
out.
be by each other, I imagine. You can't. Okay.
Okay,
Excellent.
good.
Excellent news.
About 15 minutes apart.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, this was so
This
much
was
fun.
awesome.
This was awesome. And I think I know our listeners are going to get so much from this as we did. But thank you, ladies, once again for doing this with us. And I want to say thank you, listeners, for tuning into this episode of the Funding Love podcast. We'll see y'all next week.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Funding Love podcast. We are a crowd-funded nonprofit, which means that people like you can help make a lasting impact in the lives of adoptive families and birth moms. At Funding Love, we create post-adoption experiences that strengthen bonds, build community, and restore people. And when you partner with us, whether that is giving online, signing up to become a monthly donor, or simply buying merchandise from our shop, you are funding love.